guys. All right, today we're making these resin countertops. Let's go. These are the MDF countertops that you get with your Dream Kitchen kit. You can also get them on my Etsy. I'm going to use my 123 Bullseye primer that I swear by in bright white, and I'm going to go ahead and give it one good coat just to coat all of the sides and the top. Make sure you stay about 8 inches away from the surface and make sure you coat the sides as well. It's going to give us a nice, clean, bright white surface to work on for our resin. I like to wait at least about an hour before I come back in, leave a fan on, and just be patient. When you come back after an hour, they should be nice and dry to the touch and ready to work on. This is how they should look, super crisp and clean. Let's get into what else we're gonna need. So you're gonna want some pigments. This is the pigments that I'm using. They're holographic. I can link them below. I use this Total Boat tabletop epoxy. It's a 2-part, and you're gonna need some acrylic or alcohol inks and some gloves. So let's put your gloves on and get down to the dirty work here. So I use this silicone brush. It's a woodworking brush for glue, but it works great for epoxy because it peels right off. And you can also just use a regular brush. So first things first, you're going to want to equally measure out your epoxy. It should be 1 to 1. So what I do is I just make a mark just so I know where the last part that I left off, and then I'm gonna just pour equal parts 1 and 2, part 1 and part 2 into a little cup. Now ideally you would do this in 2 separate cups and then pour it into 1 cup, but I only have 1 cup right now, so just do your best with what you have. Just make sure that they are equal parts. That's very important when you're mixing epoxy, otherwise they will not cure correctly. When I'm done pouring, I wait for it to settle down, and then I make a mark just to make sure that I got equal parts in there. And you can also use a scale for that. Go ahead and start mixing. This is sped up so that you don't have to see the whole process, but I will slow it down so you can see how slow you should be stirring it. This is about the rate you should be stirring it. There will be some air bubbles, but we're gonna get those out with the heat gun later, so don't worry if they're there. You'll know that it's thoroughly mixed when it looks just about like this, and there won't be any streaks inside. So this is where the brush comes handy, and I like to just give one good thin coat onto all my countertops before pouring my design on there. And what this is going to do is it's going to self-level a little bit so that the design that I actually put on, which is the thicker coat, isn't going to flow over to the tops and the edges. So I don't coat the sides and the edges because I don't want constant drips and flows over them. I like to keep the edges nice and clean. So go ahead and coat all of your pieces with just one thin layer without trying to get any on the sides as much as possible. This will help everything to just stay on top and not flow over the sides. I'm gonna grab some pink alcohol ink, and these are great for resin because I prefer a like translucent color instead of like a really opaque, but you can use acrylic paint as well and it will give you more of an opaque feel. So go ahead and drop as many and keep mixing until you get the color that you like. And I actually don't mix it all the way. I prefer a little like marbly look. So I mix it about halfway through, and I go ahead and I just pour a little bit of design and a little bit of epoxy on each one. This is no rhyme or reason because eventually when you start layering all of your colors, you're gonna see the design start to come together. So I'm gonna grab this really pretty iridescent pigment powder. I'm gonna link this below so you guys have all of the necessary things. And I'm gonna go ahead and just give it a couple little taps, and this is gonna be my second layer. I don't worry about cleaning out the container. Just go ahead and keep mixing. All of the colors are gonna eventually blend together anyways. Look how pretty that is. So I'm gonna use the tip of an old pencil just to drag the epoxy all around on each one, trying to save enough for each one, but don't worry, if you run out, you can always mix a little bit more. And it's really around this part where you'll be like, oh my God, am I doing this correctly? You are. It will all come together, I promise. All of the colors will eventually blend and settle together, and it'll look more like a marble finish, and it'll be really pretty, I promise. So I'm going to keep pouring from my master cup. I have about 2 more layers left. I'm going to leave a little bit in there for my gold. And this layer, I'm going to use some really pretty glitter. I'm going to add it in there. And then I'm going to add some white, which will make it kind of slightly more opaque. And then I'll add some pink and a little bit of brown to kind of dole out the pink a little bit. You are your own artist here, so there's no really wrong way you can do this, unless there's a color that you end up not liking, and you can just keep mixing until you do. I'm going to add some charcoal brown and some silver to this to add some little marble veins. And I'm going to very carefully make sure that they're really stringy and small, so you're not going to use a whole lot. And I'm just dragging them around. See, I got a little bit on the side. That's okay. I can wipe that off, but just try to stay on top as much as you can. It's going to be at this point that you're going to want to start smearing the colors around because it's going to look crazy, but please don't. I promise you, with the technique that I'm about to show you, you won't have to, and all of these colors will come together. Lastly, I'm going to use some metallic gold, and it's really pretty. I'll link this also down below. And I'm just going to add just a little bit here and there, just all around, just to give it that nice marble kind of stringy finish look. At this point, you can kind of take any blobs that may be too obvious, but try not to mix everything together, okay? That's really important for this next part. You're gonna grab a heat tool or a hair dryer, and you're just going to pop all of the bubbles. You're gonna run the hair dryer or the heat tool along all of the edges without trying to push the resin over the edges. We're just simply popping the air bubbles with the heat at this point, and then we're going to kind of start to push inward, and this will cause the design to kind of meld into each other. You should see the hot air kind of blending in all of those colors. This is how they look after I hit them with the hot air, and the resin is going to self-level, so it's going to be even more subtle when they are all done and cured. Next, I'm going to take the little tip of the brush, and it has a flat end, which allows me to just scrape off anything that's dripping. Try not to touch them as much or handle them because they will be sticky, but just leave them be, walk away, and in the morning they will be cured. I like to look at them one last time at eye level just to make sure that they're completely smooth and there's no bubbles, and then I just wait. The next morning, they should be completely cured, and look at that. So if overnight they did have a little bit of drippage, you can go ahead and take a sander and get those drips off with a fine grit sander. This is the fun part, removing the old countertops and replacing them with your new creations. I went ahead and popped in my sink from my kitchen kit, and I just went ahead and laid all of them down, and we're going to light it up to see how it looks. Now, I'm a pink girl, a very, very pink girl, but this color countertop probably would look best in a white kitchen. We'll try that next, but I do like how they are shining and looking underneath this fluorescent lighting. You can see the glitter and all of the nice little chunks of holographic that are in there, and I like them actually. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. I hope that it inspires you to try some resin, get creative with your kitchen kits, and I hope to see you on the next video. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up, subscribe, and I will see you on the next time.